Tonight we are having a panel of female founders of DevTools startups who will be sharing about their stories and what some industry trends are and really help educating us in that space. And then we're going to have 3 JavaScript engineers talk really quickly about some things they're working on or have worked on. We are going to move on to the panel portion of the evening. We have 4 panelists, actually 3 panelists, and Renee, who is going to be our moderator tonight. So Renee is a principal at Amplify Partners, where she focuses on developer tools and infrastructure startups. She graduated from Harvard with and also an MBA from Stanford GSB. Welcome, Renee.
Hi, guys. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Angie, are we ready to kick it off?
Yes.
Great. Well, I am so excited to moderate this panel just because we have so many fabulous women on it. And so without further ado, I thought that all of our panelists could introduce themselves and talk about their path to becoming CEO.
I can go first. I'm Shanea. I am so excited to be here with really great personal friends and just people who are just inspiring me every single day. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called CodeSee, and we are a code comprehension platform that helps professional developers quickly explore, understand, visualize, and reason about their code bases. And we're just really, really excited to help JavaScript developers really understand, onboard into new code bases, really understand how it works with our new system. So we're really, really excited to be here and chat about our journey. Michelle, why don't you go next?
Oh, sure. So hello, I am Michelle Ufford. I'm the CEO of Notable, which is a early stage startup that is focused on collaborative Jupyter notebooks for data-driven enterprises. And so I am very excited to be here. This is actually my first talk as a CEO officially, so this is going to be fun. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marissa Montgomery, and I'm the founder of Instantish. So we're building an issue tracker that is for small teams that move quickly. And it's different in 2 ways. One is that it's designed for everyone in the company to use, so not just engineers or designers. And the second thing is that it integrates really closely with Slack. So yeah, also excited to be here. Thanks.
Great. No, those are wonderful intros. And, my first question would just be, other than building something meaningful for the world, which all 3 of you are doing, what do you love most about your day-to-day?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I really love, so I get a chance to talk to developers just like everyone here, basically every day. And I get to hear about their problems. I've personally experienced the same problems that we're solving. And as we're building CodeSee, understanding large-scale code bases is exactly what everybody else deals with. And so I get a chance to just really not only learn a lot, but just build something that I know that my people need, essentially. So that's probably the most fun.
For me, it's everything, actually. I feel like I am having the time of my life, living my best life. And that sounds cheesy, but it's true. And even the hard days, right? So there's a lot of long days, a lot of hard things and challenges that come up, but yet it feels different. It feels different because we have built such an amazing team. It's such a positive environment, and it's really much more focused on problem solving and how can we, rather than, focused on all the reasons why this might not work. And so it's just been such an extraordinary experience.
Yeah, I feel very much the same way. I just feel very creatively fulfilled every day with what I'm doing. And it's cool because as a CEO, you obviously wear many different hats, you're hiring. I code probably 3 to 4 out of 4 days out of the week still. So I really enjoy that. And also just working with an awesome team and getting to talk to customers is really exciting and inspiring.
I think all of us have probably worked at big companies before. And so I feel like it's just this really awesome transition to be able to not be at a big company, but then you get a chance to like create your own company. It's a really awesome experience to be a part of that.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And, you know, got what you love. And maybe in the opposite fashion, what do you feel like is most misunderstood about being a CEO in DevTools or just an early stage CEO generally?
I think for me, it's a lot about like the sales aspect of it. And you know that you don't just get to code every day, because like I get a chance to code and I get a chance to like work on the product just as much, particularly at this stage, as you know any other person in the company. But I think that particularly if you're venture backed like we are, I actually get a tremendous amount of help often by a lot of people. When we were raising, I texted Renee and Michelle very often, right? And so, you know, it's not, you have to do all of these other things. Sure, there's new things that I'm doing, like learning about HR, learning about accounting and finance. But those are all just a really great opportunity to learn new things. And I think that part is misunderstood, and particularly when you're building a product for your own market. Like the selling part of it is just like you're just talking to your people essentially.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that what I did not fully understand was how much of the job is really just translation and communication and translation between your engineers and your potential customers and your investors and your advisors. And it's just a completely different way of communicating. And so even though I had gotten into a pretty good place in terms of speaking with engineers and with business leaders, it is very different when you're trying to do sales calls, right? Like the way that you approach it or the types of things that you talk about are very different. And you really have to kind of shift and evolve. And then yet still be able to go back and talk to the engineers and business leaders. And so I think that was something that was unexpected, but has been very positive.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's a lot of context switching. And when I kind of envisioned building a company, I envisioned, you know, spending a lot of time just designing and you know, coding with the team, but it's a lot of like communication and finding the people that are most excited about your product and communicating really closely with them and keeping them updated. And then also I was surprised just at how much time like hiring and interviewing takes up. And I mean, obviously a super valuable exercise and great use of time, but that was definitely something that surprised me.
No, those are great answers. I wouldn't have thought about how much, you know, selling and hiring and just overall I thought my cross-functional communication days were Google only, but it sounds like it keeps going. And, you know, because a lot of the folks on this call are technical and we had some fantastic technical talks, I would be curious what trend everyone is most excited about in the DevTools world that's kind of upcoming. And Marissa, do you want to maybe kick us off?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know if this is a trend or maybe kind of a theme, but I've been really excited when I see kind of like the blending of the different stages of the engineering lifecycle. So you have like, you're discussing what work you want to build, you're creating issues, you're writing code, you know, and then there's the whole PR and code review process and then deploying and monitoring. And it's been really cool to see, you know, like there's the typical concept of linting where while you're in your IDE editing your code, you have this tool that's, you know, making suggestions that you'd normally catch in code review, which is like a later stage. So I've been seeing a lot of interesting things like that, like design linting. And it's been cool to see GitHub's code scanning feature as well, which is like they scan your code base. I think it's opt-in, obviously, but they scan your code base for secrets that you might have published publicly, which you would have caught much later. So it's kind of cool to see new tools and features that kind of blend those stages together.
Michelle, you want to go next?
Oh, sure. So for me, you know, I'm a data person. And so it's the convergence of big data and machine learning and data visualization with DevTools. And I find that really exciting because when I was doing a lot of development work, there was so much stuff that was tedious, right? It was just the routine stuff or just trying to track down and understand the code base or, you know, all of these things that were tedious and were not really like value add to the company. And I thought, you know, man, I just wish I could get to the cool stuff a lot faster. And so I see that with the convergence of these things, and I think with like the kinds of dev tools that Marissa and Shanea are building, I think we're going to see that you get more time to spend on the fun stuff and less time worrying about, you know, why did my code base break again?
Yeah, thanks. I was actually about to mention like that I actually am really fortunate to get to ride this trend that as new types of people, you know, women, you know, underrepresented people, like get into engineering, our dev tools need to evolve with it. And I get a chance to build a developer tool to help people learn like how large-scale code bases work so that we can spend more time building the things that we were meant to be building, as opposed to like spending 60% of your time figuring out where this line of code is. And so I see, there are a bunch of startups that are kind of popping up in that space to really help, you know, you understand and build features faster and help you understand in a very different way than traditionally you've had to understand a code base. Because, you know, traditionally, the way that you get it in your head is you read code one line at a time, you hold it in your head, you imagine data as it flows through your system. And that just doesn't work for everybody. And so I'm excited to solve a problem like that because I've personally struggled with that problem of holding whole code bases in my head. And so I see that as a starting trend as these tools start to merge together, how, you know, we add visuals, how we add visualizations, and just make it easier for people to comprehend so that we can, you know, do our jobs better.
Yeah, I mean, I love the connection too between new dev tools and getting more women and underrepresented groups in the dev tools world. I wouldn't have thought of that. And that's kind of a nice segue too of just what do you think we can do to get more women in dev tools? And maybe Michelle, you can kick us off.
Okay, so I have a theory.
Yes.
I don't know if this is, you guys tell me if you agree or not, but I believe that we actually will see more women in dev tools, or we're seeing, you know, a decent surprising amount there, because women innately just want to help, right? Like we want to help solve other problems and other people. And when you're in dev tools, you get to interact with your customers a lot more than you might be in more of like an external facing product role. And so I think that there's a strong opportunity to recruit women to dev tools, but we need to, we need to make sure that we are supportive of them and that we are explaining the problem space to them and like the opportunity in a way that really resonates for them. And I think that a lot of this stuff is just more like a language barrier. And once I know I've had many conversations with females about, you know, what does DevTools really mean? And once I explain it to them, they're like, oh, that actually sounds more fun than this other stuff that I'm doing. And so I think that there's a real opportunity for us there.
Yeah. Shanea, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm quite prolific in my thoughts. I think just like basically piggybacking on what Michelle said, like we need to be able to just support more women in developer tools, and there just needs to be a few pioneers, right? To just say that it's cool and it's really awesome. And, you know, particularly with dev tools, I think that they're basically force multipliers because you enable developers to do something better to enable their end users. And we just need more women in dev tools. I mean, Snowflake had the biggest freaking IPO like ever, right? And just like, there's no women there on their founding team. So I'm just like, we just need to say, this is what we're doing. Hey, people, come join us. Learn from like all of you amazing women in what you do, and just kind of have some people just say, yes, let's all do this together.
Totally.
Yeah, I would. I'm sorry. Yeah, I definitely agree. There should definitely be way more women in dev tools. I get really excited when I meet like female founders. It's super exciting to meet all of you. One thing that I think is helpful too is talking about like the difference between a sponsor and a mentor. And I think a lot of people talk about how, you know, they think, oh, I should mentor this person to help them get to the next stage of their career, to like find the confidence to start a company. And it's really about like sponsoring them. So like talking to their manager about the great work they do, putting them up for opportunities. If they're starting a company, you know, helping them, or like advocating for them when you're talking to other investors to get funding. So yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And can I just add on one more thought, just, and this is more generally, you know, with women in technology, and something that I think that we really need to do is we need to have real honest conversations with our leadership when we're not happy, and be willing to walk away, right? Being willing to leave that job or leave that team because it's not a good fit, rather than leaving the industry, which actually might be a really good fit if you were on the right team. And so I think that there's a lot of people that just feel like, all right, I got this job, I've got this team, I've got this project, I've made a commitment, I have to see it through. And the reality here is that employment is a two-way street, and they need to be treating you well, and you need to be performing for them. And if one of those pieces is not working, then it's not the right fit for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love
Snaps.
it. And I can see in the comments you're getting well said, and totally agree with that. And I can't think of a better group of three women to kind of lead the way, especially for female CEOs, and just CEO in general, let's be clear. And, you know, when I think about early stage startups, I'm also fascinated, right? You have kind of incumbents that you're competing with, you have other early stage startups. And so, and then in DevTools, particularly, you have open source projects as well, which, you know, aren't necessarily mutually exclusive from companies, but they're there. And so what do you see as the biggest threat to early stage DevTools companies? And kind of how as leaders, how do you think about mitigating those threats? And maybe Shanea, you can kick it off for us.
Yeah, I think honestly, okay, this is going to be spicy. I think that the thing that's the biggest threat is just like the reputation of our industry, right? Like a lot of companies do a lot of really kind of shitty things, right? And there's a lot of things that could be threats, like the big company. I can talk about the big companies. I've worked for big companies. I've worked for Google and all the places. But I think that if we don't do the things that require creating a good business, like if we don't think about our users, if we don't think about, particularly in developers, if we don't think about all of the different types of developers, or we aren't thinking about people that we're serving, or the teams that we have in our companies, and making sure that we support them, that's the biggest threat to early stage companies. Because there's plenty of opportunity. There's plenty of things left to build, right? There's plenty of problems that need to be solved. We need to be able to get a group of people together and support them, and make sure that they can live their best lives building solutions for the world, and not doing really kind of shitty things for them, to them.
Yep. Marissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'd also say something that came to mind for me was just like focus and discipline for companies. And maybe that's not a threat, like a certain trend or something, but I think especially, you know, with developer tools, you have so many choices with like what stack you use, which services you integrate with. And there's a lot of different things that you could build, but I think it's important, especially in the early age, to kind of like simplify that mental model for the user, and really double down on like what your product is best at. Yeah.
And I agree with both of those. I think what I've seen is that it really comes down to like two really big things. And there's a lot of different threats, like the team that you build and who you choose as your investor. There's a lot of different potential challenges, but there's a huge opportunity in the marketplace. And what you really need to do is make sure that you are really thoroughly understanding your customers. You cannot assume that just because it worked at that one company or two companies that you're at, that it's true of the general industry. And so having lots and lots and lots and lots of conversations with potential customers, and not even that you're trying to sell to them, you're just trying to understand the problem space and if this idea that you have really makes sense for them. And then the second piece of this is really making sure that you have a business model that's going to work and it's going to scale. And I think that a lot of people have like these really great ideas, but there's no really good way to monetize them. And if you take that time to think about it up front, you can kind of shift the business in a direction that would be more viable.
Yeah, I think those are all great answers. Just doing a lot of upfront work and, understanding the DevTools industry and being really focused. Awesome answers. And, very, sort of similarly and kind of piggybacking on that topic, I'm sure a lot of the folks on this call would love to be CEO someday. And so what is the one piece of advice you have for a new founder? And maybe Marissa, you can kick us off.
Sure. Yeah. I guess I would just say you can get started like whenever you want, even if you just want to start it as a side project, and you don't really need anyone's permission. And there's going to be people early on who try to reduce your idea or dismiss it, probably more people than are excited about it. But just listen to the people who are excited about it and make sure that invest in the people that are cheering for you. So yeah, I would say go for it if anyone wants to.
Mm-hmm. Michelle, what are your thoughts on being CEO and your advice for new CEOs?
I think trust and transparency go a long way. And you need to find partners and advisors and potentially invite those advisors to be investors in the company. If they are people that feel like they are upfront and honest and direct with you, and people that you can trust just to give you the truth. And I think that is so huge to find those right partners. Just like people like Shanea and Renee who have given me advice as we were starting, I think that those things are so incredibly valuable, and it makes all of the difference. And so I guess the other piece of this is really don't try to do it alone. Go and find a network of support and find out people who have done this before, because if you pull all of that information, you're going to find a lot of very common themes, and those are really good lessons for you to learn vicariously through others if you can.
Yeah.
Plus one to that. Yeah. I think the advice that I would give, because I would say very similar to what Michelle said, most of us really are just learning as we go, right? And that's very similar to if you're a CEO or if you're a junior dev, right? And in addition to, what hasn't been said, what has really, really helped me besides my support system is reading a lot. I read a lot. I listen to Audible a lot, and getting frameworks and getting information in as quickly as possible has really helped me to grow my career. And I didn't just one day decide to be CEO. I kind of stepped up over time and grew from over several years until I had the confidence to do it. And the same things that I do today are the same things that I did 5 years ago. And so I think that all the things that we're talking about today, finding your support system, being transparent, actually communicating your needs, are relevant at any stage, whether you want to be a CEO today or if you are just getting your first developer job.
Yeah, I think all of that is well said across the board. And you made me think of something, which is just, how much content there is out there right now, whether that's articles and podcasts and Twitter. And I think it's an awesome time to learn, particularly in the DevTools space. And so very curious what everyone's favorite thing is or most helpful thing is to read, whether that's for company building or just to your domain specifically, but open to recommendations. And maybe Michelle, I'd love to hear your recommendation first.
So this is a great question. I don't have any one source that I go to. In fact, I try to aggregate across a variety of sources just so I can make sure that I'm not missing something. But I would say some of the ones that I enjoy reading the most would be articles on Medium, taking the time and just, you know, liking the stuff that you like, and you'll continue to get good recommendations. And there's also something called Stratechery, if you're not familiar with that. And that has been also just something that I just really enjoy reading and hearing Ben's thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm a big Ben Thompson fan as well. I'm right there with you. Shanea, what about you? What's your favorite thing to read?
She's muted.
Oh, yeah, I get it. I was in that boat earlier on the panel. I totally get it.
Okay, I was trying to move my chair and not disturb anybody, so I'm muting myself. Anyway, actually, what I'm reading right now is not related at all to DevTools, so I'm going to share anyway. Yeah. But Unapologetically Ambitious is what I'm reading right now. It's about and her name is escaping me, but it was just released, and she was a female CEO of color at a tech company. She used to work for IBM, and it's just about how to be just unapologetically ambitious. And my first podcast that I'm not really a podcast because it sounds like talk radio without the music. But my very first podcast that I actually really love is by Bethany Frankel. She just launched a new podcast. She had Skinny Girl Cocktails, and she's just had some pretty amazing people on Bose Mosse James from Netflix, CMO Netflix, and she's pretty famous, and Mark Cuban was on there, and it was just a really awesome, just like fantastic person to just listen to, very entertaining while I run, as far as like business and just how to just like live your best self.
Love it. We all need to be a little bit unapologetic ambitious, I think.
For sure.
Marissa, what's your favorite thing to read?
Yeah, so my go-to recommendation, it's kind of like a timeless book. It's High Output Management by Andy Grove. And I read it once a year, every year. I'm probably due for my reread. But yeah, it has like such great advice in it. I especially like the first chapter where it kind of talks about this kind of engineer, like manufacturing process. I think it's called like the Breakfast Factory. And it's really cool because it talks about how you assess quality at each step. And I think it's just a great framework for thinking about any sort of process. And then it also has a great section on one-on-ones and how they're really undervalued as a management tool. And it talks about like different strategies for how to invest in them. So yeah, every once in a while I'll also like Google some notes and reread the notes and then reread the book. So yeah.
Actually, Marissa, you just made me think of another book that I absolutely love, which is called Principles by Ray Dalio. So if you're not familiar with that, that is just a book that really just describes different principles that they use to articulate what the goal is at Bridgewater. So everybody has clarity. And when you really, truly break it down, it's like, wow, this makes a lot of sense because there's so much miscommunication in the organization that by defining your principles up front, so everybody knows here's how we're going to make decisions and here's how we're going to operate, saves a lot of confusion and misunderstandings down the road. And so if you've not read that, I would recommend it.
Yeah, I've read Principles too, and I will +1 that one. There's a question from the audience, so I want to ask it, which is, there's a perception that DevTools should be free, at least for individuals. And I totally agree with that. How do you tackle it and get your first customers? So Shanea, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's weird because like, in order to like get customers at all, you have to meet their expectations, right? So if everyone determines that it should be free, then you should have some free component. And so what we do, what we're playing around with, is our data flow, which is our first visualization, is going to be free, right? So, and developers it'll be based on like a credit and usage system that there'll be an amount of credits that you can use, just try it out, understand what's going on, and then there'll be features for larger teams and, enterprises that, features that most individual developers don't give a crap about. And then those things are things that you pay for. And so that's basically how we'll tackle it.
Yep. Marissa, what do you think?
So sorry, the question was about free tools.
Right. Is there like a perception that DevTools should be free, and what do you pay for? Is it in kind of an open core model, bottoms up?
Yeah. So we have thought about offering a free tier. One thing that we have done until then is like we invest in open source projects, which is really just energizing because anyone can contribute and give feedback and ideas. So yeah, that's been something exciting. And these projects are kind of geared towards solving the larger problem that a lot of our customers face. So it's kind of like if Instantish can't address that problem completely right now, at least we can give you these resources or free tools in the meantime. And I think it's just, it's one of our company values is just kind of like generosity. So when you're doing something, not always thinking about like, oh, how is this gonna directly lead to revenue like extremely quickly. It's more about like proving to our customers that we're on their side and actually trying to solve their problem, even if that's doing some free tools. And I'm just really excited about open source in general. So definitely wanted to incorporate that.
Yeah. Michelle, I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there is certainly a perception that DevTools should be free. And I agree with Shanea that they should be up to a point, right? That there's this expectation, but I think that also we should look at giving away DevTools for free in a different light, which is that we really need to level the playing field here for like small and medium-sized businesses. And so in our case, we're giving away, we'll be giving away like a community edition that's going to be fully functional Jupyter notebook that's very collaborative, and it's meant to be good for a single individual or good for a team, and then you can grow all the way up to the enterprise. But when you're in that single person mode, right, you usually don't have a lot of support. You don't have a lot of like understanding from management about why you need to buy these things. And so it's not really until you start growing that you're able to get those types of budgets behind you. And then you've got other companies that are like nonprofits or that are small businesses that just don't have the money, can't afford it at all. And yet we need to give them the same kind of tools so that they can continue to compete and stay in business. And so I'm a strong advocate for open source. I'm a strong advocate for some sort of premium type of model for a lot of these dev tools or more generally just software tools in general.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And I know we're about at time, so I was going to get to our very last question, but I want to read a comment from the audience first, which is, Marissa, Shanea, Michelle, keep speaking, building excellent companies. You have the right stuff to grow and create.
Oh, we heart you.
Thank you.
And my final question, which I'm actually personally dying to just know the answer to, is that any tips or tricks to hire and sell? Because I certainly see it with the companies I work in. And I think those are two of the absolute hardest things to do, particularly at the early stage. And I couldn't think of a better group of people to just, crack that for us. And so Michelle, maybe you can start off with your thoughts.
Sure. I think it really, for both the customer selling and for hiring, when you're in this early stage, it comes down to transparency and spending the time. So if you have somebody that is an amazing employee that's at some company that they, it's a very prominent company and you're trying to recruit them, or just someplace that they're not quite sure if they want to make that leap, especially in today's times, you need to give them all of the information so that they can really make an informed decision. And it's not really about pushing them one way or the other. It's about really laying out your case and saying, look, here's why I think this is a great opportunity. Let's talk about the company and the company culture. Let's talk about the team. Let's talk about the customers. Let's talk about what this is going to look like in the next year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. And when you take that time to answer all of their questions and really lay out your case, we've been very, very successful with recruiting, taking that approach. And then similarly with customers, the same thing, just being transparent about where we are, what our goals are, and trying to find things that are win-wins for both of us has been very effective as well. And actually also on taking the time with the customers, take the time to research them, take the time to read their blog post or watch their videos or trying to understand the business. And if you're in super, super early stages and you really need those customers, take the time to personalize your demos. right? It's going to take time, but when they look at those demos, it's going to feel familiar. And so now they're not sitting there trying to understand, what is this all about? They can see things that feel familiar and they can immediately start to grasp the benefit of your product.
That is the great tips all around, especially the piece on personalized demos. That's one I haven't heard yet. So I'm going to definitely hang on to that in my back pocket. Shanea, what do you think?
Funny story. I definitely stole Michelle's job description. So, so that was a key piece, and everybody that we interviewed loves it, by the way. I think that it's our responsibility as people on the call, like, grow into leadership positions, to create culture from the beginning. And we have had a heavy just time and energy put into making a good interview process, making sure that it's fair, making sure that we are bringing in people who are kind, self-aware, who provide good feedback and good communication skills in addition to their tech skills. Because as we decide to grow the company, we want to make sure that we actually, walk the walk. Is that the phrase? Walk the walk of our having an inclusive culture. And we have turned down some really awesome people because there's been red flags in our interview process, just personally. And it's really, really important to us. And I think that carries over, not just in candidates, but also in our customer calls, right? The way that we do business, the people that our customers interact with, they can clearly see that we desperately care about our people and really care about the problem that we're trying to solve. And that just makes everything a lot easier, to be honest with you. And I think that's generally kind of the way I've approached things throughout my career, like before building a company, if that makes sense, even on just teams.
Yeah. Marissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Like, authenticity goes a long way, and kind of showing that you care about your customers. And yeah, selling was definitely something that I had to adjust to. I've never done it before. I've been in engineering all my career, so it was very different. And I kind of try to always default back to just listening as much as possible, which is interesting because, sometimes I'm really excited about talking about, features and that we've released and things like that. And so, I think just listening to the people that you're talking to as much as possible is always a good thing.
Yeah. Plus one to everything. And I see a question, and I'm assuming Angie will give me a warning if we're very over time, but I may just get this one question from the audience so that they can participate too. So, actual last question. Would love your insights on pivoting your business. How hard is it when you try to love the problem you're trying to solve? I'd be curious because I'm not sure. I actually don't know this, but I actually don't know if any of you have had to pivot. So I will just let the first person, if somebody wants to just chime in.
I had to not necessarily pivot, but because I have experience in products, we did a lot of what could we build to solve this problem first? And so we initially had an idea and then we pivoted before we built it, which made it a little bit easier. But in the event that we talked to our users and we talked to the developers and they were like, no, this is hella stupid, you shouldn't build this, we would have absolutely thrown it out without question and built what is important for them. And I will still do that today. Everything that we built, I could probably throw out tomorrow and start again. We just need to make people happy. We just really want to make people happy.
I do think that there's something to that, do what you love or love what you do. And I couldn't be an astronaut, so I decided to be in dev and to love that. And it's really worked out well for me. But, it was a conscientious choice for me to sit there and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I think this is a great career. And then I'm just really going to go in, with everything and really embrace it. And it's been really great. And I think that whenever you're trying to start a company, you have to have the same mentality. Like you truly have to love what it is that you're doing, or you're going to be miserable. And so if you're not finding like the right problem space, or if you're not finding something doesn't feel right, I think you need to just continue to try to solve that problem and pivot until you can find something that works for you and for the market and for your customers and as a business model. But the way I've seen it in my experience has been that there's always a path forward. Always, right? You just need to sit there and take the time to look at it, think about things from different perspectives. If you can't see it, go talk with others, get their input, and see if that opens up your eyes. But I truly believe there's always a way forward.
Thank you so much, ladies. This is super insightful for me and to everyone else. I'm sure, you'll be able to get a chance to look at the amazing comments that everybody had to share. So thank you all.